Hi everybody, my name is Angela Cleary. I'm a feminine empowerment coach and I specialise in healing after narcissistic abuse. So today I want to talk about setting boundaries. So when we're on a spiritual path or when we're on a path of growth, when we're actively healing ourselves and creating better lives for ourselves, the people that were once in our circle no longer fit into our vibration anymore. So because we are starting to align with our soul and align with our true purpose, the people that we once had in our lives tend to fall out of alignment. They either turn narcissistic or bitter towards us because they're jealous of our growth and they're not able to do their own healing, or they've always been this way, but we haven't seen the red flags because we've been such people pleasers, or because we just didn't understand. Like we've had, like, I look back and I've had so many different kinds of friends in my life. I let so many people into my life and a lot of them were narcissistic. And obviously I didn't realize that at the time. But as I've grown and as I've evolved, these people fall away because I start to see, okay, this is not a healthy friendship. This is not a healthy relationship. This is not a healthy relationship with a family member. And that's the hardest part, actually. When we try and set boundaries with people that we once really cared about, especially family members, it can be very difficult. And I know this only too well, and I will explain my story in a minute, but I just want to kind of expand on what I'm trying to say. Like when we are following our soul's path, these people will either automatically fall away or we will have to start setting boundaries. Because when we're around these people, they no longer fill us with joy. They start to actually drain us. And that's the thing, when we actually grow and do our healing, do the inner work, we become more sensitive to energy. And we become less tolerant of negative energy. So if there's people that we were once those negative people, I suppose. We lived in that kind of mindset. But when we're growing and healing and evolving, that no longer suits us. And it's very, very hard to be around any kind of negative energy when you're on this positive growth ascension path. It is so hard. And I find that if people are gossiping, or if people are bitching about other people, if people are even speaking negatively about their lives all the time, this is energetically draining. And it really, it steals from your essence. And they turn into energy vampires in a sense as well, because you're starting to vibrate so highly, so much higher, that they're getting high off your energy. But because of their negative energy, you're actually depleting. So, your cup is overflowing with love. But if you hang around with these people too much, your cup will eventually empty. And because we have a tendency to people please, because we care a lot about our family members, our friends, or the relationship we're in, we end up putting all of our energy into trying to help them grow. Whereas this keeps us stuck or pulls us back onto their level. So you have to be very mindful when you are going through this healing process. If there's people that are in your life, that no longer feel good for you, we have to start setting boundaries. It's so important. And I've had to walk away from friends and family members because of this. And I was aware of this after a few years, and a lot of people started to drop away out of my life at the start of my spiritual journey. But then people that I cherished started to drop. Like these people I loved and they were good crack and, they were friends or whatever. But I started to see red flags. I started to see narcissistic traits. So obviously I stepped away from these people. But the hardest part for me was stepping away from people that I thought would be my life forever. A group of soul family that I had, I loved them so much. I still love them. But one of them turned narcissistic, or I think she was always narcissistic and I just didn't see the red flags. And another friend of mine that I had my life for a long, long time, I had to walk away from, because you can feel when somebody is throwing daggers at you, and you can feel when somebody doesn't want you around. So I walked away from that as well because it wasn't the right energy for me. But the hardest for me was last year when I had to set boundaries with family members. Now it's the hardest thing we have to do is to set boundaries with low energy, toxic energy vampire family members, narcissistic family members. That's the hardest one. And it really, like, we're led to believe that, oh, they're your family, you have to be there, you have to look after them, you have to do this. And like, look, I care. I want to be there for my family, but I cannot do it if it's depleting my mental, physical, and emotional well-being. I put so much energy into trying to help negative people grow that I ended up losing all of who I was. Because I was vulnerable and I allowed myself to get sucked back into that world. I spent too much time around toxic family members and I ended up draining every bit of life force energy that I had. It was gone. Like, it was gone. It was so bad. I was going from worse to worse to worse to worse. I had a fear-based entity around me as well because of this, because of allowing my dad to suck all the life force energy out of me. I was susceptible and vulnerable, and I actually had a fear-based entity attached to me as well. So I was literally living in constant fear all the time about everything. Every time I did anything, I was shaken. Every time I thought about leaving the house, I was shaking. I couldn't go outside my front door. This is how toxic energy can affect your well-being if you allow it in. And like, I used to set boundaries with my dad years ago because I could feel this vampire energy, and I set those boundaries. So I saw him only once every few months, and when I was there, I was only there for a few hours at a time, that kind of thing. I set my boundaries and it worked. But when I became vulnerable after losing all my friends at the time, and I had another narcissistic boss to contend with. So I had other issues going on as well at the time. But I became codependent on my dad. I ended up putting all my energy into trying to fix and help him. And I was like, I remember even saying it, like, even like, it got so bad at one stage that even a 10-minute phone call with my dad, I spent 3 days with no energy, couldn't move, depression, anxiety, lethargy, all of it. So as I said, I set boundaries before. Because I was in a vulnerable state, I became needy. So I allowed him into my energy a lot more, and I started seeing him once a month. And I remember even saying, oh, it's grand now. He doesn't affect me like he used to. I can see him more often. No, that was not true. And there was a time I was up there every week, and I went from bad to worse. And I went from having my cup overflowing with love to my cup actually shattering. And I didn't know what was going on. And my soul was inside me screaming at me to get out, screaming at me to help her. And I just didn't know what was going on. And all I knew was it reminded me of the 8-year narcissistic relationship I'd been in. All those red flags, all those arguments, and how I felt. My physical health, I had rashes on my face, I had physical illnesses, I was mentally and emotionally fatigued, and I was in fear all the time. So I made the hardest decision of my life last year to walk away. And I actually asked him for space. When you ask these energy vampires or these narcissists for space, they will throw it back on you and they will accuse you of being crazy. My dad's exact words were, are you sure you don't have a mental disorder? Do you not need to go to the doctor and check to see if you have a mental disorder? Because I asked him for space and because I told him I could not be around low vibration and negative energy. And he's like, I'm not that negative. And I was like, if somebody comes on the television, you start bitching. Every time I opened my mouth, you would tell me to shut up. And like, when you're in this kind of, like, my inner child was dying nearly because every time I opened my mouth, I was told to shut up. The same as what I was in a narcissistic relationship. When this happens over and over again, you just stop talking. And I lost all sense of who I was. Like, it wasn't an easy decision for me to walk away from my dad. It was not. And it breaks my heart to this day. But it's a year now since I made that hard decision. And it took a year of hard, intense healing every day and self-care and self-nurturing of my inner child to get to where I am now. And I can't go back. I cannot go back because it took so much out of me. If people are in your life, and it doesn't matter if they're family, this phrase, blood is thicker than water, that is not the real phrase. And I've said this again and again and again and again. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. That is the original phrase. And that means that your chosen family, your soul family, the ones that aren't blood, are the ones that are going to support you till the end. Just because they're your family does not mean that you have to put up with toxic energy. Just because they're your partner or your friend or your boss doesn't mean you have to put up with toxic energy. Doesn't matter if they're the parent of your children and they're your ex. You do not have to put up with toxic energy. You can set boundaries. How are you going, like if it's an ex, for example, and you have kids with that ex, and I've seen it with so many partners or broken relationships where the ex is a narcissist and, you know, they still have to connect with that person for the child's sake. And that's all well and good. But that narcissist will try and still keep control on you and still try and abuse you. So if you are dealing with an ex-partner, for example, and you have to see your children, make sure that there is a third person when you are with your ex, because if you're alone with your ex that narcissist will try and pull you back in. And then when it comes to family members, don't let society tell you just because they're your parent or your sibling or blood doesn't mean you have to put up with this toxic energy. I nearly lost myself completely. My soul was nearly gone. And I think if I had instead continued the way I was going, and if I hadn't cut ties, I would have died. And I mean it, like I had lost all sense of my will to live. I was gone. My mind, my body, and my soul was gone. I was in constant fear and my health was deteriorating. And as I said, like they make you feel guilty. The other things they say is not only do they accuse you of being crazy or having mental problems, they will say, after everything I've done for you, you do treat me like this. You ask somebody for space. You don't say I'm walking away. Like this is at the start when I asked for space and said I just need some time apart. Then I explained what that space was for. And once again, every time I spoke to him, I was having arguments with my dad, right? And on the phone then, when I finally did answer after a couple of weeks, it was an argument again. And I was telling him, like I was crying and I was shaking on the phone. And I eventually hung up because he accused me of mental disorder. And then he sent me this big long message, a list of all my traumas that I've healed from. My heart bleeds or my blood freezes when I think of this happening to you or this happening to you. Like he was victimizing himself for all the trauma I had gone through in my life, while also bringing up stuff for me to feel shitty about so that I'd run back and be codependent on him. This is what they do. They will guilt trip you. Oh, you can't do this to me. You can't do it after everything I've done for you. You're treating me like shit. You're sucking all the life force energy out of me and you're accusing me of having mental problems because I set a boundary. And I remember replying to that message and said, you're gaslighting me now. I'm not putting up with this. I don't have to put up with this toxic energy. I have no problem blocking this number. And then that just clicked to me. I sent that message and I blocked the number and I didn't look back since. And you know, last year was hard for me to heal, but I grew out of it. And I've started to pursue my life. I'm healthier than I've ever been again because I walked away. And like, you know, I remember doing a brief video about this. My first video ever was on setting boundaries. It was only a few minutes long. And it was because he overstepped the boundaries again last November. And like on my old phone, he still had access to send, like even though he's blocked, he could still leave voicemails. There was one night he left 10 or 15 voicemails on my phone. I just deleted them all. I don't listen to that stuff. But like I was guided then. This is when I was guided to start doing videos. I just woke up after that. That night he left all the voicemails. And I was like, I have to share this. Because we're so conditioned to believe that we have to put up with this toxicity. We're so conditioned to believe that this is the norm. That we have to deplete ourselves by caring for other people. How are we supposed to look after anyone if our energy is completely gone? Like, that was the thing. Like, and I remember one day, the last time I actually saw him, we had a massive argument and I couldn't speak. When I have no energy left, when somebody is after draining my energy completely, or even if I go out into big crowds and I get energetically drained because I'm an empath, I will need to plug into the wall. This is what I call it. It's plugging into the wall. Literally sitting on the couch with my dogs, alone, quiet, silence. Don't talk to me. Just don't talk to me. I can't talk. Like, my friends used to even question after, like, when I used to have parties before, the morning, I'd be the life and soul of the party, and the morning after, I would be so quiet. Like, I wouldn't even speak, and they'd be like, are you okay? It's not like you. And I came to realize it was my energy, my empathic energy. I just needed to reboot. And the way I describe it is, for when your energy is depleted, it's like when you're a robot in the corner plugged in, and you have to literally shut down to reboot. And the last time I actually saw my dad in another argument, he asked me a question and I couldn't reply. I just nodded or something like that, or mumbled or something. And he actually attacked me for not answering him. And I was like, I told you this before. I have no fucking energy. We were in a big crowd there. And like, obviously I knew it was him as well. I was like, it was in a big crowd as well. And I can't leave the house, all this kind of stuff. I was like, I'm energetically drained. I'm not able for this. I cannot actually physically speak. This is what happens. When an energy vampire steals all your energy and then you have nothing left to give or for them to steal, they will retaliate and attack you for this. So this is where you have to be mindful. If you set boundaries with people and they attack you or call you crazy or start making you feel guilty or selfish, they will call you selfish as well for choosing your health over them. They will retaliate. And if you're setting boundaries with these kind of people and they retaliate, these are definitely the kinds of people that you need to set those boundaries with. This is proof that they are the people you need to set boundaries with. You need to walk away. And if you need to cut these people off completely, do. Because look, at the end of the day, you cannot help anyone if you don't help yourself first. You need to refill your cup. And if you're in a situation like, say, for example, it is an ex-partner and you've got kids together, then you can't obviously cut that person off because you need to see your child or your children. That's when you need to start setting strict boundaries and do not allow that person to only correspond with that person when it's to do with the child. Don't allow them to suck you back in with your lies, and do not allow yourself to be alone with that person because they will try and suck you back in and abuse you again. If you've made that step to walk away from that narcissistic partner, stay away. And that doesn't even if you don't have kids, like, the narcissistic ex will still try and suck you back in. So don't spend time alone with that person, and do not let them suck you back in through text messages and through correspondence. This is like, that's why I had to block my dad's number, because I knew he would send more and more abusive messages after the other. And as I said, he was still leaving voicemails on my phone because I had my voicemail set up. I've gotten a new phone since, thank God, and so no one can leave me voicemails. So he has no access to me either. And like, I had to cut off my brother as well because he was sending messages through my brother, and I could still, when I was healing, like, with the energy that I was feeling from my dad, I could feel that energy. I'd gotten so bad that I could feel that energy even when we were apart. I could feel his fear even when we weren't around each other. And when I actually broke that tie with him, I could feel when my brother was in my dad's house, because I knew my brother went up to my dad's every second weekend or something. But every couple of Saturdays, I would feel like I was being talked about consistently. I could feel that my father's energy was coming at me, and guaranteed I knew that my brother would text me that day through my dad. So my dad still had access to me through my brother, and I love my brother so much. I love my dad so much. But I actually had to end up cutting off my brother as well, because he started to sound like my dad. He left a voicemail one day and it was like my dad's voice on the phone. I was like, my dad is after getting his claws into my brother now, and I have to cut him off as well, because both are going to just deplete my energy. Like, I love my family so much. I love the friends that I've had to walk away from so much. But because my energy and my health was deteriorating, because they were no longer in alignment with my soul, I had to walk away. And that was they were the hardest decisions I ever had to make in my life. But I started to realize the universe removes this energy from your life so that you can pursue your life purpose. And that's what I'm doing. I'm pursuing my life purpose now. And I couldn't have done that, because what I find with the people that were in our lives, especially if you grow up in a small town and it's very negative energy, I call it the small town mindset. It's very low energy and it's very in a box energy. There's no reaching the dreams, there's no reaching the stars, it's a minimum wage mindset. And if you want to live £1 million lifestyle, you cannot live on a minimum wage mindset. So as you grow and stuff, these people will suck you back in and tell you you're crazy, that there's no point in chasing dreams, you're never going to achieve this. They will keep you stuck in that low vibrational energy. Especially when you're on a spiritual path or on your healing path, they get jealous that you're able to do this work. They get jealous of your glow up and they start to get bitter towards you. They will throw daggers at you. And I've seen that with a couple of friends as well I had to walk away from. I can feel the energy. Like, the more I heal, the more I can feel energy. I know when you're jealous and when you're fucking throwing daggers at me. If you don't want me around, just say that. Don't be my friend just because you're feeling sorry for me. Anyway, that's another story. But genuinely, I had to walk away from these things, and it broke my heart, because especially with a group of friends that I had to let leave, they lifted my soul up when I first met them, and for the years I knew them. They lit me on fire. They were my people. They were my fucking people. And then as I started to ascend or up level or evolve, it stopped being in alignment with me anymore. And I stopped drinking, you see, as well. So being around drink and stuff was definitely out of alignment with my soul. And I started to be in their presence, kind of going, this isn't for me anymore. I don't feel comfortable anymore. I don't feel like I fit in here anymore. So that was really hard for me. But obviously with my family, it was so tough. It was really hard. But I had to choose myself, and the last year of growth for me has been massive. Obviously over my healing journey, I've grown over the years, but I made the decision last year to cut every toxic energy out, and I intensively healed myself every single day. And it took me a long time to get out of that fear-based energy. And even if you see my first video back in November last year, there's still a clip of it on my Instagram, and I looked at it yesterday. Oh my god, I look terrible. But I've grown so much from then, because they were still getting into me. That toxic energy was still coming into me. Even though I cut off the energy from last April, I had to readdress it in October, November. So looking at my first video, that was when I completely cut it all off. End of story. You were getting no access to me whatsoever. And you should see my growth even from November to now. It's a big difference. From when I was so scared to go in front of the camera. I was petrified. But I'd lost my voice. That's because I'd lost my voice so completely. I was told by so many people to shut up, that my voice didn't matter, that my opinion didn't matter. So to try and go in front of a camera and actually express these words was so scary for me. It was so scary. I was so nervous. But now I actually love it. I love being able to share my experiences and my growth with people, my learning, my healing with people. Because if I can help just one person, that's all I need to do. But this is why it's so important to set those boundaries. When I look back on how I was this time last year, how scared I was, how unhealthy I was, how fearful, how depleted, how little energy I had, to now, it's the biggest transformation I've ever made, because I made the hardest decision to walk away from those toxic energies. And obviously through my growth and intense healing last year, proper intense healing, every day I did something to heal myself, whether it be meditation, inner child healing, inner child workshops, any kind of thing to help me grow. I discovered my purpose. I discovered coaching is my purpose. I discovered that I'm here to share my voice with people. I rediscovered my voice last year, and I realized that I didn't even have a voice for so many years. I'd become so shy, and I was always a shy kid as well, and like I'd lost my voice for so many years. To rediscover my voice after making those hard decisions made me realize why it had to happen. Like, for a long time, I felt so victimized. I was like, why is the universe taking everyone away? Why does everyone leave? Why does no one love me? And this is how my inner child was feeling. Why does everyone leave? I have an inner child abandonment wound that obviously I've been healing since my journey started, and my healing journey started. But it keeps coming up. It keeps coming up every time I have to walk away from somebody else. My inner child, my abandonment wound gets activated. And my inner child is like, why does everyone leave? So for a long time last year, that's how I felt. But when I started to use my voice, when I started to gain momentum in my career and pursuing my life purpose, I started to realize that I had to be isolated. I had to cut off that toxic energy so that I could grow. If I continued to try and help people that weren't ready to be helped, I was just going to be sucked back. And that's what happened. I was being sucked back. And I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now if I hadn't made those very hard decisions to set those boundaries. So you really need to choose yourself. You need to choose your growth and your purpose. Know that you're here for more. Know that you're here for a higher purpose. You're on this healing journey for a reason. If people are starting to make you feel drained, this is proof that you're on this ascension journey, that you have more to do on this planet. And if you continue to allow yourself to be around this toxic energy, you cannot improve yourself and you cannot be the best you can be so that you can share your voice with this world. And that's what we're here for. We're here to learn from our traumas, learn from our experiences, heal ourselves, grow, and then guide the rest of humanity forward. But if we continue to try and pull people forward who aren't ready to come forward, this will only bring us back. So know when it's time to let go. Know when it's time to walk away. And if it's, as I said, a situation where you can't walk away, set those strict boundaries. Do not allow yourself to be alone with these people, because they will deplete your energy, steal your life force, and abuse you, and just affect your mental and physical well-being. So choose yourself. Choose your growth, because you cannot be the best you can be for anyone, for your children, or for humanity, unless you choose yourself, set those boundaries, cut those ties, and walk away from any kind of toxic energy. This is how we can make a difference on this planet. This is how we can find our purpose, is by making those hard decisions. So thank you so much for listening today, and I really hope this resonates. If it does, please like and share, and subscribe to my channel. And if I can help you on your journey, please book me for a discovery call today, and I would love nothing more than to help you on your path. Thanks again. Bye-bye.